Now, it's been 3.5 years of political turmoil, but today, in just under 5 hours' time, the UK will formally leave the European Union. From 11 o'clock tonight, we will no longer be EU citizens. But the country will still abide by the EU's rules and regulations until the end of the year, while the government attempts to strike a trade deal determining our future relationship. The route to Brexit has been anything but straightforward, as our political editor Laura Kunsberg reports on this historic day in British politics.
The strife, not quite silent yet. Change can inspire.
Let's show a bit of pride in your country.
But be painful too.
It's part of my identity. It's been taken away today.
Our departure from the EU is now real.
Burn it! Burn it!
And very, very nearly here.
Happy Brexit Day!
Independence Day. This is what we fought for.
Have you split the country in two over Brexit, Prime Minister?
The man who led the campaign is leading us out and now leading the country. Boris Johnson still can't resist a joke about his midlife crisis or joy at Brexit.
Midlife crisis, I now have a motorbike. 1, 2, 5 cc motorbike. That is the biggest joy of my life. Anyway, now I've got apart from Brexit.
But he won't just be remembered now for the stunts, the gags, but for our exit. Craving an era of political success. But there are big risks. He hopes of avoiding accidents, rather than wondering in a few years' time, what have we done?
Take it, we're going to recycle it. It's all right.
Taking the cabinet to Sunderland, the first city to vote leave on that night.
We're taking back control of our laws. The people of this country know that their rulers are directly accountable to them. Yank on the string and we will do what you say.
There have been some strange scenes in the UK's time in Brussels.
This is tremendous. One of the best days of my life.
But the departure of the Brexit Party's MEPs must be near the top.
It's got to be pride of place, doesn't it?
Nigel Farage plotting to end our participation on the EU from the inside. Worked for him.
I will, of course, be watching like a hawk. I've enjoyed being the pantomime villain. You know, Farage gets up and they all start booing and jeering, and I've enjoyed all of that.
They might not miss him, but there's still regret in Brussels from the EU top brass.
We regret the decision of the British people, but we respect it. And now we open another chapter. It's the story of old friends and new beginnings.
But as we leave one union, there's extra tension on our own. The SNP believes this moment gives more muscle to Scottish independence. But it will be evolution, not revolution, when the hands reach 11 tonight. We'll still follow EU rules till the end of the year. Expect arguments about what's next.
We need to ensure that we do maintain good trade relationships with Europe. We don't tear up all the conditions and agreements we've received, and we don't fall into the arms of free trade deals with the United States.
We won't feel a dramatic difference to real life when we wake up in the morning. But change, profound change, will reveal itself day by day, even as the arguments that nearly tore this place apart begin to fade. The last 4 years have reshaped the contours of our country. The path that stretches decades ahead is a different one now. And the grip of a political tribe dominant for so long is well and truly gone.
Well, it's obviously a very big day for our country. Obviously, I led the campaign to stay in, but I always accepted the referendum result and knew this day would come.
At the UK's home in Brussels, the blue and gold of the EU symbol comes down for good. Here, the Union Jack flutters over a moment of pride for some and sorrow for others. So much is uncertain, but one thing clear tonight. Even after all the angst, decisions made in our democracy do, in the end, make change.
Laura is in Downing Street for us this evening. Laura, after a 47-year union, this divorce really is a huge moment, isn't it?
It is, no question about it, and the decision that the country took in 2016 caused a sort of collective nervous breakdown in Westminster. It was a real shock to the people who had been in charge for such a long time, and that's why this has been such a torrid battle. But we are now embarking on this, and what follows next might be quite a white-knuckle ride. very tough trade talks lie in wait. So much has to be sorted out, whether it's fishing, immigration, every part of our law, every part of rules and regulations that govern business and everything else in this country. Those final details have to be hammered out, and Number 10 wants to do it by the end of the year. Many people think that is extremely optimistic. But in the big picture, the fundamental thing is, after all the doubts, all the jeopardy, will it, won't it happen, that fundamental question has been settled, and we will be leaving the European Union in a few hours' time. That decision that was taken in 2016 by a narrow but clear majority of the country, confirmed overwhelmingly in the general election just before Christmas, that is now what is going to happen, whatever your view of that may be tonight. And there's only a handful of days really in politics around here, despite the daily soap opera and the daily drama, that you can say this is a genuine junction in our history. Rita, tonight is certainly one of them.
Laura, many thanks. Laura Kunsberg there. Well, we can go live now to Brussels and to our Europe editor, Katya Adler. And Katya, this is the end of an era there too.
Well, absolutely. And of course, this is a historic occasion for the United Kingdom, but spare a thought for the EU as well. We've been part of the European Union family for more than 45 years. Tonight, the bloc loses one of its biggest and most influential members. So we've had big sighs, long goodbyes, expression of regret and sorrow from EU leaders all over the continent. Today, we heard from the President of the European Parliament, who said that there would always be a sense of brotherhood towards the UK even after Brexit. But don't we know that rifts between family members can sometimes be some of the most deep? What will happen after trade negotiations start after Brexit between the EU and the UK? We've already heard government ministers wondering why the EU wants to impose regulations on the UK to get a free trade agreement that it hasn't asked for from Canada or Japan, for example. Well, you see, Canada and Japan don't share the same intimate history and geography with the EU. Canada and Japan can't suddenly become an overnight competitor to the EU like the UK can. So when EU leaders are now saying to us, after Brexit, we will love you, but we will do you no favours across the negotiating table, they mean it.
Katya, thank you. Katya Adler there.